6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode number 19 of Purely and Simply Evil. I'm Brad.
I'm Miguel.
And this is Let's Talk Movies. Thank you so much for hanging with us tonight. If you are, today is, what is today? Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. We are in the heat of our very first Oktoberfest event here at the
heat.
channel. We really are, man. And it's been a blast so far. We have interviewed Steve Merlo. We have had commentaries. We have had watch-alongs. We have... we are all kind of course, feeling the hype and the build-up to Halloween Ends, which I can't believe I'm about to say these words, but comes out next week. Where did that year go? I mean,
yeah, right.
Seriously, we went from I don't know. It's weird because it's kind of this double-edged sword where I feel like Halloween Kills was a long, long time ago, but really it wasn't, because we got to ride the Halloween Kills train for a couple of years because of COVID and everything that happened with that. But this has literally been almost a year to the date that we've got to ride this Halloween Ends train. And, of course, we waited so long for anything. Nobody had heard anything about it. But we're so close now. And listen, this episode has been a long time coming. Tonight on the show, on our 19th episode, we are talking Halloween 3, Season of the Bitch. I mean,
Season of the Bitch.
We're talking Halloween 3, Season of the Witch from 1982. Wanted to talk about this one for a long time, but given the fact that this October is the 40th anniversary month of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, we were like, we'll wait and do it during Oktoberfest. Honestly, this movie was part of kind of what gave us the Oktoberfest idea to do something like this, because we were like, how do we honor these last few films in the Halloween the Halloween French fries. That sounds disgusting. The Halloween franchise in a really meaningful way. So that was kind of what got the ball rolling about this whole Oktoberfest thing. And Halloween 3 is a really fun flick. And, I struggled with it for a while. When I first learned of it, I was kind of like, it doesn't have Michael. It's not tied into the rest of the franchise. I don't really care. And then as soon as I gave it a watch, I was like, I like it. And this was years ago now, but I got to introduce Miguel to it. So, Miguel, my friend, how you doing tonight? Are you ready to talk some Halloween 3?
Most definitely. Without a doubt. Dare I say, probably one of my favorite Halloween movies, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. And another thing that I really struggle with, and, Miguel, you can kind of chime in on this too and what you think. We at the end of Oktoberfest, the official last piece of Oktoberfest, at the beginning of November, we are going to rank all of the Halloween films from 1978 to 2022 with Halloween Ends. Now, I'm struggling with, do we include Halloween 3 in that? And here's why. Yes, it is a part of the franchise, and yes, you could treat it as a part of the franchise, but I struggle to compare it to the others because it's so different. It's so night and day from what the rest of the franchise is. So I struggle. Do we include it in our rankings? Do we not include it in our rankings? Do we give it an honorable mention in our ranking? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Miguel?
Yeah, why not? Okay, so what? Michael's not in there. I'm not going to be
it's hard to.
I'm not going to be that fan that walked into that movie theater and be like, "Where's Michael?" I don't care. It's a Halloween movie, dude.
It is a Halloween movie, and I don't know. We'll probably include it. We probably will, but I've struggled with that. So, but really excited to talk about it. Daniel Marquis, what's going on, buddy? He said, I have really grown to love this movie over the years. Me too. And it took me a little bit. I think this is an acquired taste for people because, again, I probably watched it for the first time 4 or so years ago. It was before COVID, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I kind of turned my nose up at it for a long time, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it a shot. It's probably gonna suck. And then, the first time you see it, you're kind of like, what was that? And then
what the fuck did we watch?
The more
what kind of ride was this, guys?
I know, right? The more and more you like, you think about it and you kind of process it and you chew it up a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, I get this. Like, I understand what they're trying to do here, and it's fun. Horror World, hi guys, what's going on, buddy? Glad to have you here. So a little preview of what's to come because you know we like to do that. So tonight, obviously, we're going to talk Halloween 3. This Saturday, we will not have a live show. This will be our only live show this week. I know we're going to take a little bit of a breather. I'm going out of town this weekend. I won't be here. So on Saturday night, our full movie commentary of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is dropping on YouTube and on Spotify. You see that little 40th anniversary logo, 1982 to 2022. Perfect time to talk about this movie. Perfect time to drop our commentary. So Saturday night, you will be able to watch Halloween 3 in spirit with us. We have not forgotten about this show. I know people have asked me, they're like, hey, when are you going to do that H2 show? We are going to do it. We are going to reschedule it. I think I actually already rescheduled it to next week.
I wasn't told that.
Well, Miguel, you're being told. Okay, you need to get on it. I gave.
It's called voluntold, and I left that shit in high school. Get out of here.
But yeah, even we will get to Rob Zombie H2 at some point because that's going to be a blast and a half of a show. Let me tell you, it's going to be a good time. And then, listen, a lot of people have asked about this, and I'm super, super, super hype. But we did 1978. We did 2018. Mm-hmm. Evil dies tonight! We are going to get to Halloween Kills. We are going to do a live watch-along of that next Tuesday night. We are watching Halloween Kills live together on the show. And it's going to be a blasty blast. It's going to be fun. A whole lot of fun to watch that with you guys.
I can't wait to do that clusterfuck with y'all, man. It's going to be fun.
I know, right? And we haven't done a commentary of that yet. Like, we haven't actually done, like, a sit-down and, like, a commentary. The last time Miguel and I watched it together was
at the theaters.
I guess at the theater, because we watched it separately after that. And then I've seen it a couple of times, but we're definitely going to...
yeah, that's true. Because, like, we said we would watch it. We needed... Yeah, after all the comments on the initial reaction, we were like, all right, so I guess we got to see this like 2 more times, I guess, or 1 more time just to get like a good basis. I mean, for me, I liked it right off the get-go. So, like, y'all didn't need to tell me squat. It was mainly my man right here that y'all need to convince for a hot minute. So, I was completely content with the movie. But, yeah. Yeah, we've only seen it once. So it'd be interesting to see it with, like, you know, with like 3 run-throughs, I guess, in. Because how many times have you seen it already? You've seen it 3 times, right?
I've seen it in the theater.
At least 3 times.
I watched it once. On my own when you and I watched it differently. And then Julia and I... So this will be my 4th time.
Okay, so yeah, 3 times. Not a bad...
I've seen it 3 times, so... We've each seen it 3 times then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've each seen it 3 times. So this will be our first time watching it. Tim87, what's going on, buddy? He said, Brad, Miguel, what up, boys? I'd say include 3 in the ranking. It is a part of the franchise. That's really all the basis you need. Yeah, I think we
Very correct.
Will. We will. And you're not wrong. Tim87 also said, stoked on the watch-alongs and commentaries. Had a blast on Rob Zombies in 2018 with you sons of bitches recently. Yeah, they were a lot of fun. We have really enjoyed the watch-alongs, like, quite a bit.
We certainly have.
It's fun to record commentaries like this. But it's also a lot of fun when we can kind of, like, watch it with you and bounce ideas off of you, too. So, you know, I mean, I guess we enjoy hanging out together. That's, I guess, what we do.
I mean, I guess that's what we like to do, right?
I mean, you and I mean, I guess we like each other a little bit.
I mean, you're not the only one that keeps me up in the morning. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, I just like it when I roll over and you're the first thing I see on my pillow.
I bought him a pillow that had my face on it. That's what he means, guys.
I'm kidding.
Just want to let you know that right now.
He did not do any of that.
Sierra, that's what he means.
Daniel said, "I would like to see a Halloween film that ties Halloween 3 in with Michael." I would not, and we actually talked about that a little bit on our commentary. I would not. Me personally, I think.
Well, here
I think that's a little bit.
You do have Michael. You do have his essence in the movie. I will say, you do have the character that plays Michael in the movie. So I mean, that's enough for me, honestly, because I didn't know from the get go until he told me, and I was like, wow, that really is him. That really is Nick Castle that I see in Halloween 3. So I mean, yeah, I mean, you get Michael, right?
What do you mean, Nick Castle? Oh no, it's Dick Warlock from
Dick Warlock. There you go. I'm sorry. I'm over here fucking up names, I guess. Way too many Michaels.
It's okay. So let's talk about this, man. I'm ready to dive into this. So Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, was released on October 22nd, 1982. Written, directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, big Halloween alum. He was co-editor, producer, and production designer on the 1978 original and on Halloween 2 in 1981. So he's seasoned Halloween vet. Had a really good relationship with both John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. This had a budget of $2.5 million. That was the budget for Halloween 3.
And you know what? That's fair. And I can name 3 things in that movie that made it that much in the budget. I'm just saying.
What are those 3 things, in your opinion?
The cheesy special effects that we got from the chip, the Stonehenge, and the badges. I'd say, yeah.
Honestly,
and the badges.
I don't know. I wouldn't say they're that cheap. Some of it's gruesome as hell, man. There's some gruesome.
I mean,
things.
Yeah, but like we've seen gruesome, VFX on lower budget stuff with budgets lower than that much. So yeah, so I'd say like I could name the 3, and that's probably what caused it to be that much.
That's fair. I get that. Did make $14.5 million at the box office, which, yes, it made its budget back, but compared to the first film and the second film, didn't do all that hot. People were not all that happy. Filmed in Lolita, California, which I definitely encourage you to check out Sean Clark's episode of Horror's Hallowed Grounds. That was really, really kind of cool to see. A lot of things have changed, but some of it looks exactly the same, ironically. So that was definitely cool. And, you know, what's interesting, the origin of this is kind of interesting. And this actually kind of ties in a lot with Halloween 2 as well, because you have to remember, Halloween 2 came out in 1981. Halloween 3 came out in 1982. There is literally a 1 year's difference between the second film and the third film releasing.
You got to think how quick. When did they start filming? Is a question. Did they start like exactly at the brink of Halloween 2? They're like, this is already going to be a smash hit. Might as well make another one. But
no, because
but that's not how that worked, was it? Because I remember you told me that. Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point in Halloween history, let me take you back. Let me tell you a story. Can I tell you a story? Let me tell you a story.
Let's take a rewind, guys.
Rewind. Hammer time. No,
rewind.
You got to do the Joker thing. Let's wind the clocks back a year. That's my best.
I got goosebumps because it was all in my ear.
So at this point in Halloween history, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were not happy. As they had both stated numerous times, neither of them wanted to make a sequel to Halloween 1978. They thought that the story was full. They thought that the story was complete just the way it was. The whole thing with the boogeyman, the idea that you can't kill the boogeyman, Tommy keeps saying that, and when Laurie is like, no, it's not, it's not, it's not the boogeyman, Tommy, like, calm down.
No,
whatever,
it's not.
being whatever. And when she says it was the boogeyman, and Loomis says, as a matter of fact, it was. And then he goes and looks off the balcony, like, that is a complete story when he is gone. And they felt like there didn't need to be anything after that. So even Tommy Lee Wallace, who directed Halloween 3, said that none of them were really excited about making Halloween 2, like, let alone Halloween 3, like, except Irwin Yablans, who is, of course, the founder of Compass International, producer on the 1978 film. He was like, no, we need to do this now. Like, that first
forever
film was a hit. I know. He's like, we're never stopping.
In
this is gonna be
perpetuity.
Like, get comfortable, because we're literally just making Halloween films until the day we die. No.
Yeah.
But he was
like,
no,
guys, like, Miguel and Brad are going to make a podcast solely on this franchise.
There's going to be an entire YouTube community built off of this film. Like, you need to be aware of that. Then this was 30 years before they even knew what YouTube was. But
very true.
I digress.
I don't even know what internet was in.
So, at the same time that all of this was happening, John and Deborah did not want to do a sequel. Tommy Lee Wallace agreed. Irwin Yablans was like, bro, we need a sequel. This has to happen. At the same time, John Carpenter was very in depth and into pre-production and writing the script for The Fog, which was released in 1980. So all of this is taking place between 1978 and 1989, somewhere in there. So the story, as I understand it, goes that Irwin Yablans had fully intended to produce both Halloween 2 and The Fog for John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. But then he, as it's written in Taking Shape, which we're going to get to in just a minute, he made the mistake of talking to Bob Raimi, who was the founder of Embassy Pictures, and he got wind of what was happening with Halloween and Halloween 2. And Bob Raimi ended up making a backdoor deal with John Carpenter to because you have to remember, John Carpenter wanted to go and do original things. He was like, I'm done with Halloween. I don't want Michael Myers anymore. Like, I'm done with that character. That story is over. And he made a backdoor deal to direct, Bob Raimi made a backdoor deal with John Carpenter to produce The Fog and Escape from New York with Kurt Russell. So Bob Raimi was like, hey, come here, child. Come here. I got you. I'll give you money.
Let me show you something.
I'll take care. You know what I mean? He was like, I'll let you make these films for me, and you don't have to worry about Halloween 2. Don't worry about it. Which, of course, Irwin Yablans was like, bro, what? You just jumped ship on me? Like, bro, we had a deal here. Like, you know what I mean? We was partners, man. We was partners. That's what he was doing. I don't know why I keep going into that voice. This is the voice of the evening. I'm not sure why. So Irwin Yablans was pissed. Pissed enough that he sued them all. You get sued, and you get sued, and everybody got sued. And after battling each other for quite a, again, all of this took place within a couple of years, but after, a little bit of a legal battle and after kind of arguing, John Carpenter and Deborah Hill agreed to make Halloween 2, 1981, with Irwin Yablans and Compass International if John could still go make Escape from New York and The Fog with Bob Raimi at Embassy Pictures. So that's essentially how Halloween 2 came to be. And I know you're like, but we're talking about Halloween 3. I'm getting there. Now, according to John
We're getting
Carpenter,
there, guys.
This is an exact quote from John Carpenter. He said, "We were literally forced into making a sequel because of business considerations. The sequel was going to be made with or without us, and part of the reason for making the sequel was to get the money that was owed to both Deborah and I from the first film. Being nice little capitalists, we decided to go ahead and do that."
Did he say nice little capitalist?
He said,
"Oh my God."
He said,
"What a
nice
time."
Capitalists, we decided to go ahead and do that. Dude, you gotta love the John Carpenter sarcasm. He is about the most sarcastic human being on the planet, and I love it. Like, every time you hear him speak, he's just like, yeah, I did them for the money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean,
the man has
the
zero cares for any of your feelings.
I don't mean all of his films. He doesn't do all of his films for the money, but, like, especially Halloween, he was like, yeah, I just let him keep going because I enjoyed getting a fat check every once in a while for no reason. Like,
I mean, it's a fair statement. I'm not going to lie. When you get that passive income, it must be fucking nice.
I know, right? He was like, I think he said it at a convention or something one time. He was like, I literally don't do anything, and I just get a check in the mail, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're making a new Halloween movie. Okay. Of course, until the Blumhouse trilogy, he's been very involved with the David Gordon Green Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool because, I mean, there are there are elements, obviously, especially I think with Ends, that this trilogy is very much a love letter to him and what he started, and kind of giving, for so long he was so unhappy with what they did with his characters and what they did with that franchise. And I think David Gordon Green and Jason Blum and Jamie Lee Curtis and all of these people, Danny McBride and all these people are like, let's give it's partially for John. Like, you have to look at it as it kind of is. I think they're like, hey, let's give John the ending he deserved. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let's give him the proper ending to the story,
but also that big fat check.
Yes, but I don't know, man. I know we're getting off topic here, but if they're gonna give John Carpenter his ending, like the ending that he really wanted, do you realize that's Michael getting away? Like, if you give Jamie Lee Curtis Laurie Strode's ending, that's Laurie Strode, kicking his ass and winning. But if you really give John Carpenter his original intended ending, his original intention was to have Michael just be gone. Literally, Loomis looks away and he's gone. So, like...
Well, that's going to be kind of hard because, one, Loomis is dead. And, yeah. So, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he's been writing up, or at least thinking of, like, a whole another ending. And, who knows? I think Carpenter probably has, like, different feelings in regards to how he wants to end the franchise, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't know. So that was all complicated enough, but to make things even more complicated, because when you think the Halloween franchise is convoluted and twisted enough in terms of, like, the franchise's history and what went into it, think again, my child, because you have no idea how convoluted and messed up this franchise can get. So to make things even way more complicated, Dino De Laurentiis, the esteemed Italian filmmaker, contacted...
What a name.
I know, Dino De Laurentiis. Very, very big name in cinema. Contacted Erwin
I don't know.
Let me see, hold on. Let's see. Dino De Laurentiis. He was an Italian-American film producer, obviously. The dude produced King Kong 76... Conan the Barbarian, the original Dune, Manhunter, Orca, King Kong Lives.
Orca?
Flash Gordon.
He produced Orca? That's fucking hilarious. That's one of my dad's favorite horror movies. I swear to God. It's fucking hilarious.
A lot of the old classic 50s, 60s, 70s films.
Mm-hmm.
He did a lot of those. He did Army of Darkness. I mean, he did a lot of films, man. And he contacted Erwin Jablons, and he was like, I want you to sell me the rights to Halloween. He was trying to kind of woo him into selling him the rights. And, thinking about it, it's kind of like, after all of that legal battle between John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Erwin Jablons and Tommy Lee Wallace and the dude from Embassy Pictures, he freaking agreed to sell him the rights. Like, what? Like, what?
Hey, man, a check's a check.
I know, but you just fought for, like, 2 years to try to retain to try to get what you wanted out of it. And you're like, yeah, take it. Sure. You know what I mean? It's like, what? And he did regret this later because, let's face it, I mean, all that any of this nonsense really did was ruin his relationship with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill and Tommy Lee Wallace and ensure that he had zero input in Halloween 2 or Halloween 3, and he's even said that. He's said that Compass could have skyrocketed if Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 would have been produced under Compass and had not been sold to Dino De Laurentiis, but, I mean, it could have been big for his company, but he gave it all up for a business deal. He was like, nope, sorry, I'm going to give it away. Sure, Dino, take it.
So much for Halloween Game of Thrones. Hollywood Game of Thrones is pretty much what it is. All about good deals,
Halloween,
bad deals,
Game of Thrones,
backstab,
Hollywood, whatever.
Yeah,
all of the above. So that's a little bit about the backstory. And Deborah Hill even told Fangoria in '81 that Erwin Jablons literally wasn't even allowed to be on set. They were like, we don't want you here. We don't want you to have any kind of creative input. Like, you're done. And then Erwin Jablons
sounds very
also,
cliquish, like very high school cliquish, if you ask me.
It is. But he also left Mustafa Akkad's business deal later. you know, and I don't say any of this as a knock against Erwin Yablans at all. I mean, Erwin Yablans is an incredible piece of Halloween history. He is literally one of the reasons that we have this franchise. He is the reason we have this franchise. So I think, I just think it's a double-edged sword when we're talking about that, because, like, it just seems so convoluted. Like I said before, for as much as we all love this franchise and for as much of a fan base as it has, and it doesn't just stop with Erwin Yablans, it goes on too. It's got a very convoluted, windy history. This series did not take a straight path at all.
Mm-mm.
You know, I mean, not even a little.
This took like several different avenues and took like
right?
2 or 3 different dead ends. And now we're in this roundabout of horror.
And, you know, I was listening to, shout out to them, but Mike and Jay just had Robert Zappia on, who wrote Halloween H2O. Or I guess co-wrote Halloween H2O, which I'm like halfway through. It's been a great interview so far, but, you know, Robert Zappia had even mentioned this, you know, they didn't do different timelines back then. The concept of a different timeline was not really a thing. You know what I mean? Where you, at least to the level that what Blumhouse is doing, where it's like, okay, none of the sequels mattered. This is our sequel. This is Halloween 2018 is part 2. You know, but they didn't really do that. So it's like, how do you? There was no concept of we could do this a different way, or we could do a sequel that's its own thing. You know what I mean? So everything had to be this linear path, which I think is why there's literally an entire book back here on the shelf. It's right here. There is an entire Taking Shape book of unmade Halloween sequels. It's this thick. But it's thicker than the first one. Like, this is the first one right here. It's literally thicker than this first one is. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like, there's so many unmade things, you know, treatments and scripts and ideas that it's crazy. And it's crazy to think of how much went into this and how much went out of it, and just how wild and crazy everything got with the people involved.
You ever thought of just like going through that book and just like seeing like what, like we'll vote up and down whether or not that could have been a good idea?
Yeah, well, because we talked about doing that on a season of Purely and Simply Evil, doing unmade Halloween sequels, you know. So that's why I haven't dove too deep into that yet, because I think we're gonna try to do something with that at some point, in a season of Purely and Simply Evil, unmade Halloween sequels. So that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think that's something we should do.
Like,
honestly.
I know one for H2O, I think, had Laurie living in like a high rise, and it was essentially Die Hard, but with Michael Myers. like Michael Myers in a skyscraper, like chasing around Laurie. Like, I think that'd be kind of fun. You know what I mean? That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Michael
Takes Manhattan.
I know, right? Let me get to the chat real quick. Horror World said, I've seen Halloween Kills in theaters once, and then I think a month later in November I saw it with my mom on Peacock. I'm going to see Halloween Ends in the theater and then on Peacock again with my mom. Cool, man. That's awesome. Sierra said, what a beautiful time to join. Listen, it's always a beautiful time to join us.
I think it was whenever you were tongue fucking all of our ears.
Yeah, probably.
I think it was during that time, yeah.
Jeffrey Collins, good on, buddy. He said, nothing beats the original classic Halloween. 100%. I agree with you. And no Halloween movie ever will. I agree, man. He also said, favorite horror franchise of all time? Probably Halloween. It's probably my favorite, honestly. And what's going on, buddy? J-Dead is in the house. He says, time to stab that like button. That's going to stick, isn't it? I like to stab that like button thing. I like it.
Don't worry, J-Dad. He's going to end up like saying that all the time now. Trust me.
Stab that like button. Do it. Just do it. I need a knife that says stab.
Do it, cuz.
Do your thing, cuz. God, we're going to get to that good old...
Oh, please do that thing.
Later. Now, you also have to hand it to these guys because they're tricky. Whether it's a COD saying the clause that, you know, Myers can't die, which came later in the franchise's history, not yet, or this, they knew exactly what they were doing. So Dino De Laurentiis, after he got the rights to Halloween, when it was a guaranteed thing that Halloween 2 was happening, he included, I could be wrong, but if I understand this correctly, he included a contractual obligation for John Carpenter and Deborah Hill that if they were going to do a Halloween 2, if he wanted it, they were required to do a Halloween 3. And of course, when Halloween 2 was a big hit, more of the night he came home, he enacted that right. So while John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were like, yep, Halloween's over, that we're done with that thing, Dino De Laurentiis was going,
yeah, psych. It's like when your dog gets a little ahead of you and you gotta pull the leash. And you gotta pull the leash him back. He's about to get out, he's about to be free, and you're just like, yink, and he jerk his neck back. That's kind of what it's like.
Were like, what?
Oh, I was gonna wait for you. I was gonna say they're like dogs on a leash, like poor dogs on a leash.
John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were like, yep, we're done with Halloween, not doing any more of those. And this was Dino De Laurentiis.
You serious?
I was wondering we were going to introduce that thing again. Jesus.
He was like, yeah, you are. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
So he enacted that contractual obligation. Boom. John and Deborah were back for Halloween 3. Now, for everybody, even the ones that wanted a Halloween 3, except for Erwin Yablans was always very a very big supporter of you can't kill Michael. Michael is the star. Michael and Loomis are the heart of the entire thing. Like, you have to have Michael and Loomis in it. He didn't even, like Erwin Yablans has said, he was like, I take no responsibility for Halloween 3 because I didn't agree with the plot. I didn't agree with what they did. But John Carpenter was really into this original idea that he had where the Halloween franchise could continue as an anthology-style series that centered around Halloween, the holiday, but did not include Michael Myers or Dr. Loomis or Laurie Strode. And, they did, most of them did agree on. Even everybody that wanted to bring Michael and Loomis back, they were like, they thought it was a neat idea because, I mean, let's face it, Michael Myers and Samuel Loomis were dead. They blew, as you like to say, they blew each other up. They literally blew each other up in the hospital. They were like, okay, they're dead. We can't come back from that. Like, the characters are gone. And it's an interesting thought. You had even kind of mentioned this on our commentary, Miguel, if you want to talk about it a little bit. Like, this idea of Halloween continuing as an adult-style Goosebumps or scary stories to tell in the dark, or, something like that. Like, that could be an interesting idea, just based around the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
It could be cool.
Well, I think that's something that's already been done, I think, around that time. I don't know when Tales of the Crypt came out. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the Twilight Zone is definitely older than Halloween. So it'd be like a carbon copy of what it is or something like that. And
there's actually a little bit of a tie-in to that with the Twilight Zone to what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so it's like it wouldn't be anything original that they wanted to do. And I think they probably I'm pretty sure what they wanted was something like just, very original, which is definitely what they shot for the gates for. So
I don't know. I think Carpenter could have done it. I think Carpenter could have come up with something really interesting and original for that franchise. I think that it could have been cool. Am I glad that we got what we got? Of course I mean, of course I am. I love this franchise. Again, my favorite horror franchise. I think there's a lot of really cool things that they did with it. Of course, it had its low points too. Halloween Resurrection and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Just saying, but I mean, I enjoyed what we got, So John Carpenter and Deborah Hill agreed to be a part of Halloween 3 only if it completely abandoned the Michael Myers, Samuel Loomis characters completely. To them, like I said, those characters were dead, literally, Miguel.
They blew each other up.
They literally blew each other up. And Erwin Yablans thought that was a stupid idea. And years later, he had even, like I said before, he said, I take no responsibility for Halloween 3. Had nothing to do with it. He even said, they just sent me a fat check.
And they said, shut the fuck up. We're going to do what we're going to want to do.
That's basically, Deborah Hill said, they were literally like, don't even ask. Like, it's being done. You're getting what you want. Don't even ask. It's happening. Like, just basically go away. That's kind of how it was, I think. And, you know, he said that the decision not to use the Michael Myers and Samuel Loomis characters was stupid and really ill-advised. We now know that Michael Myers is the backbone of this franchise. Why they ever decided to do that, I'm not sure. So originally, let's talk Halloween 3 now. John Carpenter wanted a guy named Joe Dante, who also directed The Howling, which is another really great horror film. Still not as good as An American Werewolf in London, but it's a good werewolf film as well. It's up there. And he wanted him to direct Halloween 3, and he signed on. He was like, great, love it, cool. Then Nigel Neal, who worked on Doctor Who, he was currently working on the remake of Creature of the Black Lagoon, which I don't think ever actually happened. And that's kind of our Twilight Zone tie-in. I believe he... No. That's not. Never mind. He was a British. You know, he kind of did the British dramedy kind of thing. Like, you know, that style of TV show. Like if you've seen Ghosts or if you've seen Doctor Who, where it's that British style of writing, and that's kind of what Nigel Neal had done. Although he quickly joined after a meeting with John Carpenter and after Joe Dante had signed on to direct. And Neal was very vocal about how much he thought Halloween 1 and 2 both sucked. He said that he could have done way better. He was not a fan, which I'm kind of shocked that Carpenter agreed to work with somebody like that, because John Carpenter is pretty much like, if you don't like what I do, like, go away. Like, you know what I mean? He's very cold when it comes to that. You know what I mean? At least, but I don't know him personally, but what I've seen in interviews. So, Miguel, you'll find this interesting, and I thought this was kind of cool. So, shortly after Nigel Neal signed on, Joe Dante, who had just signed on to direct, got a phone call from people working on the remake of The Twilight Zone. And Steven Spielberg and John Landis were like, hey, man, come help us out with The Twilight Zone. And he was like, okay.
Say no more.
Like, he was like, I'll be there tomorrow. Like, sorry, John, I gotta go. Bye. Like, so this guy was like, I'm gonna go work with Steven Spielberg and John Landis, and I'm gonna be honest. Could you blame him though? Like,
hey, man, I mean? An opportunity is an opportunity. Simple as that. If I get a call from James Cameron and says, hey, come work with me, no questions asked. Right. I drop my drawers right there. Simple as that.
And it. Whoa, you'd what?
Yeah, I heard it. Did I stutter?
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Okay. Oh. We're just gonna move right on from that. But yeah, man, Spielberg and John Landis, like in the 80s, in the early 80s, that was like prime time for those two guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That prime time for those two guys. So he left. He was like, I'm gonna go work with them. Bye. And I wanted to read this. Let me flip here. So after he did that, I'm going to page 65 here. Again, if you don't...
He already knew the page.
Seriously, yeah, well, I have it written down. If you don't own Taking Shape, seriously, this is like the companion if you're a Halloween franchise. I mean, like, or if you're a Halloween
franchise.
If you're a Halloween fan, seriously check this thing out. Because you're going to like the way you look, I guarantee it. Page 65, let me get over here. So, I wanted to read this. Thought it was kind of interesting. So, again, at the point that we're at, Joe Dante just left. So that leaves Nigel Neal just kind of like, okay. So, personality differences aside, all parties involved were in agreement that a fresh new direction was needed for Halloween 3. Speaking further with author Andy Murray, Neal expressed his initial optimism for the project. Direct quote from Nigel Neal, and I just lost the page. Great. This is what happens.
That's a teacher, guys.
Live.
That's a teacher.
Teachers can't lose their spot?
Nope, unacceptable.
Really?
Yeah.
Direct quote from Nigel Neal. I was quite keen on doing Halloween 3, particularly as they wanted to take the series away from its slasher movie origins. So I thought up a story, we had a conference, and I went off to write the full script. The producers allowed Neal enormous creative freedom in writing his first draft of Halloween 3. His only instruction, per Deborah Hill, was that the film should bring witchcraft into the computer age. That's an interesting...
Wow, as if that didn't narrow down the fucking storyline you have.
I know, right? It's like,
yeah,
okay. If I was told that as a writer, I'd have been like, all right. Like,
All right.
I don't know where to go with that, but okay.
Yeah.
Neil would draw heavily upon the Halloween traditions of his youth growing up on the Isle of Man, the self-governing island between Great Britain and Ireland. These celebrations were a far cry from the hyper-commercialized holiday celebrated in the United States, though he would incorporate that too. Neil would complete his initial draft in just 6 weeks. His story told of an evil mask maker planning to sacrifice millions of children on Halloween night as part of an ancient tradition. A far cry from the knife-wielding maniac of the first 2 films. So that's pretty much what happens. Some
vastly different.
To kill millions of children. Carpenter and Wallace liked much of Neil's first draft, though they both agreed that extensive revisions were needed before the film could begin production. As it turned out, Neil proved quite stubborn and unwilling to accept any notes on his work. This forced Carpenter to personally champion a rewrite without the screenwriter's involvement. Wallace then somewhat brazenly expressed dissatisfaction with the Carpenter draft, which he elected to rewrite himself. So now we have Nigel Neal's script, which has been rewritten by John Carpenter, which is now being rewritten by Tommy Lee Wallace because he didn't like John Carpenter's draft. So this is the third draft, 3 different dudes that are kind of like trying to put their spin on this witchcraft in the computer age type story. Let's see.
I'm surprised they even got one script out of that fucking prompt. Jesus Christ.
Right? It was this hybrid Neil Carpenter-Wallace screenplay that would ultimately reach the big screen. The project's original scribe was mostly unhappy over changes made to his script, in particular the addition of graphic violence. In all fairness to him, nothing in his original draft ever approached the horror of children's heads melting into bugs and snakes. Neil was so displeased with the rewrites that he demanded his name be taken off of the project, depriving himself of both credits and royalties. Since Carpenter's name was never technically added to the byline, Tommy Lee Wallace then became the film's only credited screenwriter, which he fully acknowledges as being incredibly misleading. That is how the script of Halloween 3 came to be. So you're dealing with ideas from 3 different guys. And you know, I always find it interesting too that these guys never wanted and listen, Tommy Lee Wallace was not a big fan of gore. He was offered, John Carpenter offered him to direct Halloween 2. And he didn't want it because he thought there was too much gore. He didn't like the fact that they were going in to add more gore, and that they, like if you think to the very beginning of Halloween 3 or Halloween 2, when the woman is like, the teenager's talking to her friend, and she's like, I think Mr. Elrod is beating his wife again, or something like that, and then Michael like jumps out and stabs her or whatever, and you see his eyes like like through the mask or whatever at the beginning of the film. That was added. That was actually a scene that they went back and added just to add more gore to the project. So again, you literally have 3 different people that are adding and throwing ideas into the script, and that's essentially what you get with Halloween 3. The film that you see is a combination of Nigel Neal's script and John Carpenter's script and Tommy Lee Wallace's script. And if you look it up like on Wikipedia or IMDb or anything, it says written by Tommy Lee Wallace. It doesn't say, it just says written by Tommy Lee Wallace and produced by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. That's all it says. It doesn't have Nigel Neal's name in there, which again, he literally forfeited his he was like, this sucks. I don't want anything to do with this. So it's interesting. It's definitely got an interesting origin story.
It's got pretty much of a clusterfuck of a story behind a movie that
really is.
Kind of came together rather well, if you ask me. So
yeah, for real, man. And it's an interesting one. As with a lot of the films, once you get past that original, man, it's like it almost seems like every one of them had a whole long drawn out story to get made.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess you could say every film is like that, but these are just it's very interesting how they
these horror stories of these horror movies trying to be made are fucking hilarious. Just listen to the drama and the rewrites and the fucking exclusions and all that other bullshit. It's dog. The fact that you guys even get Halloween movies back then is like a blessing in disguise. Like you guys don't even realize how grateful that was. I guess how grateful you guys are for the franchise to still be in its uh like peak of what horror is now. So
right. Jaded said Halloween 3 is the ultimate example of not getting what you wanted or expected, but then realizing later that what you got has become one of your most cherished things. 100%. People hated it when it came out. Didn't have a really great.
That's very wise of you, Jaded.
Yeah, and it didn't have a good reception. Like we had talked about this on our commentary, but Vincent Canby, who worked for the New York Times, he was a reviewer. He said that Halloween 3 managed the not easy feat of being anti-children, anti-capitalism, anti-television, and anti-Irish all at the same time.
When he told me that in the movie, I lost my shit, and I was like, at the end of the movie, I was like, I get it.
Yeah. Well, and he said it's probably as good as any cheerful ghoul could ask for, like just little things that just like, you know, another person, let me see, Jim Harper was his name. He had said that any plot dependent on stealing a chunk of Stonehenge and shipping it secretly across the Atlantic Ocean is going to be very shaky from the start. Like, he even said there are 4 time zones in the United States, so like it would literally, if you think about it, he was like, it would literally take 4 hours for Cochran his plan to even take effect. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if kids were watching it on the if kids were watching it on well, they were on the West Coast. If they were on the East Coast, I mean, good Lord, you know what I mean? It would have been, they would have had to wait until the next day. Like it I don't know. It really doesn't make sense if you think too hard about it. But none of these make much sense if you think too hard about it. I mean, that's cinema. It's movie magic. You play nicely. You know,
that's such a cop out, though. I hate that. It's like, well, what about this and this and this?
It's movie magic.
Like, get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit ass poor writing. That C+ writing. Get out of my face.
J-Dad said John Carpenter be like, takes a long draw from his cigarette. You hate me because you ain't me. Exhales big plume of smoke.
They hate us because they ain't us.
That's low-key how he is, though. Like, anybody's like, yeah, John Carpenter sucks. I hate all of his movies. John Carpenter's like, I don't care what you hate or don't hate. Like, I'm great, and I know that. Shut up.
Those are the best directors, if you ask me.
What, the ones who literally just don't care when you criticize them?
Yeah, they're just like, okay, fuck you, it's my movie. Like, yeah, by all means. Yeah. Those are the ones that, you know, that like, okay, you can cater to the fans as much as you want, but when you cater to the fans way too much, it ends up being like, you know, we end up like a spoiled kid.
Yeah.
But when you got directors that just want to make the movie that they want, it becomes so much more impactful for like not only them, but for movie lovers like us. Because like, yes, you're making your own thing. You're doing your own thing. You are in your bag. Like, yeah. keep on it, man. I hate your shit, but I like you staying true to yourself. So keep the shit up. So that's how I felt.
Slasher Fred, you are correct, man. He said, I read that originally it was going to be a part of a horror anthology. Yeah, they want, John Carpenter's original intent was to have Halloween as an anthology series where it's like every year, every other year, whatever, there would just be a new film based around the Halloween, the holiday, not Halloween, the franchise with Michael Myers and Laurie Strode and Sam Loomis and all those characters. But it was going to be an anthology, and of course this was the only film we got of that. Can
you imagine how difficult that'd be to keep up, though? Like
it would get old after a while. It would be great for like 2 or 3 films, and then people would lose interest because it's like, okay, how many more times are we going to do this? Jada said people on the production side of films can be just as petty as the talent side. 1,000%.
I think the general thing you want to say is people of Hollywood can be very petty at times.
Well, and you hear it from actors all the time. Like anybody in Hollywood, like anybody that's normal in Hollywood is like, bro, Hollywood sucks. It's like everybody wants to, he's like everybody wants to get to Hollywood, but like Hollywood low key sucks, you know. And I mean, a lot of actors have said that in the past, you know, and it's just kind of interesting. So,
what's the saying? What's the saying? Hollywood is the roads are painted in gold, right? Is that what it says? I think that's the term for like Hollywood. And then I heard someone say, it was like, no, it's not painted in gold. It's painted in the tears of all the failed producers and actors that just didn't make it. You know what I mean? So it's
well,
like,
even the people that do make it, though,
makes
it
sense.
still gets kind of dirty and whatever. And I mean, look at what happened with American Psycho. We talked about that film as well. And they were like, we don't want Christian Bale. Like, we don't want him. They were like it got to the point they were like, literally anybody but him. Like, we will literally take any, like, that homeless guy on the street, sure, get him to be Patrick Bateman, but we don't want Christian Bale. And look at what Christian Bale did. It's an iconic role. He did a fantastic job.
The man just showed up.
The dude yoked for a year and a half, and then he was like, all right, I'm here to play Patrick. I need to return some videotapes. Like, you know what I mean? Bro, he was yoked for that movie. My boy buffed up to play Patrick Bateman.
Okay. I was like, what are you saying? Like, yoked? I was like, oh, yoked. Okay, I gotcha. I did not fully understand what you were saying right there.
He buffed up his muscles, Miguel. That's what I'm saying.
He did. It's
okay. We'll learn.
That's like one of the first in many to come in Christian Bale's career. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let's talk about this film, man. There's also a lot of social commentary in it. Like, if you look at the film as a whole, you have like unchecked power of companies and corporations. Disney. Sorry, something in my throat there. You also have like television as a weapon.
Did you just subtweet Disney?
A little bit. No, I'm kidding. I love Disney. I'm just being.
Hey guys, if he disappears, do not blame Mickey. I swear to God, he's gonna come after me.
We'll be sitting here talking, and then you're gonna hear like, ho ho, and it's just
Mickey.
like I'm gonna have like I'm gonna get shot, and then I'm gonna be sitting here, and Mickey's head is just gonna be like.
It's like Five Nights at Freddy's. Yep.
You just see like the Mickey's shadow, like the silhouette of Mickey in the background behind me.
All you see is the ears. You don't see him. You just see the ears,
know, right?
and
You
then it's
literally
like
just
that's
see
death.
the two big ears. It's like, well, I'm done. What's the one thing scarier than any world government? Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse.
Who is also his own world government.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
What do you mean?
Yes. Did they on the news? Didn't like the Florida government? Is his name DeSantis or is that someone else? I don't know. In Florida, they told Disney that they have to now like start paying like state taxes or whatever. I don't know. That's political commentary at its finest. But we'll pish posh.
Yeah, whatever. So I really like the opening of this film too. It opens very mysterious on the dude running out of the darkness, and he gets in the gas station, and he's all like, you know, he's very he's scared. He doesn't know what he's doing. He did
Kramer really well.
I know, right? He did kind of look look a little Kramerish. But when we see Mr. Grimbridge for the first time, he's very distraught. There's the car that's chasing him, and the random CIA-looking dudes in the suits, and you're like, who are these suits guys that we don't know who they are, and they're chasing him. You also get the very strange death when he's got him on the ground and he's choking him, and first of all, bro pulls a cinder block. He's being choked on the ground, and he manages to pull a cinder block out from under a car.
It's that adrenaline strength, man. I swear, I guess when you're on the brink of death and you think you're gonna die, you'll pull anything, I guess.
Well,
but then the way he died was probably one of the most like
that's what I'm saying.
Boring death I've ever seen in a horror movie.
This car is going like a half a mile an hour, and the guy's like, oh.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost as awkward as when Laurie stabs Michael in the neck with a knitting needle, and he just goes, and he just like falls down. Over.
Yeah.
But this guy literally it's like he gets hit and he goes. It's not even like a faster he just goes.
Almost as if he shuts down.
I know, and it makes sense. I know, but I mean, the first time you see it, you're like, "What the what?"
Yeah.
But the dude, he passes out. Nice guy that we see at the beginning and the end. The gas station owner gets him to the hospital, and that's where we are introduced to the lovely, the wonderful, the kindest Christian man I ever did know, Dr. Daniel Chalice. And he's something. Tom Atkins did a phenomenal job with Daniel Chalice. I mean, he's such a cool character. Like he's the typical 80s dad where he's like he's like, I think you need a job, son. Like, you need to get out and do
Oh
something.
yeah.
Why isn't dinner ready, Barbara? I got home. I've worked all day. I need you to do that. You know what I mean? It's just that same kind of it's that same 80s dad vibe where like he's kind of a douche and he's probably been drinking since like 1 p.m. You know what I mean? But dude is always drinking. Dude would easily have sexual harassment charges on him. Easily.
Yeah, and whenever I found out that he was a doctor, I was like, this doctor, he would have lost his license like from the get go, like license easily taken.
Yeah. Well, essentially, if you look at the Chalice character, and you could say the same thing about Allie Greenberg as well, but you know, if you look at the Chalice character, he's basically, yes, he's a doctor, but the way that this film just kind of keeps unraveling and keeps you guessing. Chalice is kind of the detective. He's our eyes and ears and our source of investigating this occurrence and investigating this company and what happened, which, again, seems to be completely fine on the outside. But, again, that kind of ties into the consumerism thing. But, you know, it's just interesting. And, again, I wanted to, again, shameless plug, taking shape. I wanted to read this.
He didn't write the book.
I didn't write the book, but I'm going to plug it anyways because I think it's great. Shameless plug from Taking Shape. This is on page 69. Hey, page 69 about Dr. Chalice. Since we're kind of talking about that character, Tom Atkins Chalice makes for a flawed leading man. He is an undeniable womanizer. That's the understatement of the century. Which may be why his wife left him. This quality calls into question his decision to investigate Grimbridge's death in the first place. In doing so, he neglects his children, his ex-wife, and his job. Then he grabs a six-pack of Miller High Life before setting off with Grimbridge's young daughter, may speak ulterior motives. Not that he doesn't later take her up on the cause to stop an impending genocide. He does. In fact, this mission becomes highly personal to him. Recall that Chalice last saw his young children wearing silver shamrock masks. His effort to stop Cochrane are as much about saving millions of kids as they are about saving his own. And I think that's interesting because you have to look at Chalice as kind of a double-edged sword here. Yes, he is a womanizer. Yes, he did neglect his family multiple times in this film. Yes, he is slapping every ass from here to Houston. But he did care. He did the right thing. He tried, you also have to listen. I also question, and again, we're talking spoilers. You're watching this. You've seen Halloween 3. You also have to call into question, bro. So they're investigating her father's death. She's distraught. She wants answers. And you take her, you leave your ex-wife and your kids, you ditch them twice, and you take this chick, take her to a hotel, sleep with her twice, and then you go, wait, how old are you?
The man was a laundry list of red flags, man.
Like, whoa, like, wait, you're just now asking that question? Like, you should ask, what? You should ask that question.
Yeah.
2 days ago, like, bro, you just got in a car.
And it was a conversation before they just like started kissing. It was like, well, I don't want to sleep in the car. I was like, what?
Well, he said I could sleep in the car. Sure, be a lot better than this floor. And she just goes, where do you want to sleep, Dr. Chalice? And then of course he goes, as soon as he realizes like it's on and game is on, he goes, that's a stupid question, Mr. Umbridge.
Yeah, I mean, my man was such a Chad. I swear to God, this man went to Penn State and was pulling so many chicks all over the 1970s, dog. Like,
and I think 100%. It's funny because you even have the scene when they get to is it Santa Maria?
Yes.
No.
Santa Mira.
No. Yes. Thank you, Santa Mira. Santa Maria. When they get to Santa Mira, and they check into the hotel, he's like, oh, my wife and I are looking for a place, and you see the cameras and everything, which we're gonna get to in just a minute, and something is up. the guy even opens the trunk. He's like, "You got luggage?" Because Chalice goes to check and see if her dad's name is on the the guest list, and he goes to check or whatever, and he signs them in or whatever, and he comes back, and the guy's like, "You got luggage?" And he opens the trunk, and there's one thing, and he even takes it out, and he goes, "You all pack light, don't you?" And then he takes it in. She's got like 2 different pairs of lingerie on, though. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I know you wouldn't wear that under your clothes. Like, what are you doing? What?
No, that
Like,
one was definitely wearing under her
y'all-
clothes.
Like, did y'all plan this? Like, what did you? What? I thought you were investigating your poor dad's like untimely death, and now you're like, take me. It's just a very strange, like, oh, okay, I guess we're here, you know. Jaded said Tom Atkins is that man that'll drink a natural light using his Marlboro Red as a straw. Listen, Tom Atkins is a man's man. Let's just get that straight right now. He is. I would love. There's not many like I know there are people who are like, I want to get an autograph from everybody. I'm not much of a guy for autographs. Like, they're cool, but I'm also like, it's a signature on a piece of paper. Like, I would much rather meet somebody and have like a meaningful conversation with them and like talk to them than just be like, here, sign this, bye. You know what I mean? I just don't. I don't know. I don't really get that, but
But you will for fucking Tom Atkins.
No, well, I would love to just sit and like have a beer with Tom Atkins. You know what I mean? He's just the kind of guy like, I just want to sit and
I feel like he'd be the type of person that would like get you in trouble. You know what I mean? Like he was like you'd end up like in the back of a police car, and Tom Atkins would be like, "Hey man, did you have a good night though?"
Yeah. Well, and he's the same. He's not the same character, but he plays the same kind of guy again. That like super '80s like rough and tough dad. Like even in Night of the Creeps, which Night of the Creeps is my favorite horror comedy of all time. We're gonna get to that next season. But I love him in that film, and it's just so fun to kind of like see Tom Atkins be Tom Atkins in movies. You know,
well, it's like Ryan Reynolds. It's like whenever Ryan Reynolds is in a movie, he's gonna be Ryan Reynolds no matter what. Like it's really hard for him to be anyone else other than that.
Yeah. We also didn't talk about the craziness at the hospital. The dude who's like, who takes the fingers and just
that's true. And that was
fingers into skull.
That wasn't the first kill. It was like the second kill. So like when I saw the first kill and how he died, I was like, is this really what we're gonna be doing with like kills? Is it really gonna be that PG, I guess? Yeah. And then old boy just came in and just like fucking Toucan Sam, my man, and like clawed machine. Like he was going to get that teddy bear in that claw machine. Like he went in deep.
You can even see that
you heard the snap. You heard you felt the struggle and all that. Like you really you experienced the whole thing.
Not only do you hear the bone snapping, but you also hear the like the goopy, and like he takes his finger out and they're all goopy and bloody and like pussy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it looks gross. And even his face after, he's even like, you know,
what other face would you have if someone ripped your nose out of socket or ripped your nose apart?
Like cracked your skull from the inside? I don't know. It'd be gross.
Yeah, you'd be like.
But the nurse screams. Chalice is hung over. He's laying on the couch, practically half in the can, and he's like, and he gets up and he runs in, and it's the same nurse that he was just like, I should have married you, and he gives her a little slapper on the tush. Or whatever. And the thing that kills me though is they all just let it happen. Nobody's like, "Hey, don't touch me." They're all just like,
times were different back then, I guess. Man, I don't know.
People,
I'm not gonna make any commentary on that bullshit, but I guess times were different, dog. Have you seen 9 to 5? That's pretty much what you're expecting right there.
But you know, he goes to chase him, and then at the point where dude is in the car and he's got his full can of gas, and he just goes,
yeah.
And he just dumps it on himself, and because your first time watching this, dude is lighting himself on fire, and you're just like, what? Who the?
I remember, like, guys, when you guys check the commentary, you'll know my reaction to that. Yeah. I was just like, wait.
There's a couple of good Miguel reactions in that commentary. It's fun.
There were, like, I'll be honest, and one of it was definitely that. And I'll say this. Brad was really impressed with how quick I was to like
Yeah.
come up with the big twist. I guess is
The
the twist.
android, the robot thing. Miguel called it like a half hour, and he was like, "Those people are robots, aren't they?" I was like, "Damn, you're good. Like you got it." So it was pretty good, man.
It was
You
the
know,
it was literally that scene alone that got me because I was like, bro, no sane human being, uh, is gonna do that and not have any sort of remorse. I'm just saying, unless we were talking about like it was either this is what I'm trying to think what I said. It was either gonna be aliens or robots, and it was like
yeah,
a 50-50 shot. And in my head, I was thinking like, well, it is season of the witch, so I highly doubt it's aliens.
yeah.
Could be fucking robots. And remember, you told me it was like witchcraft in the new age, in the computer age. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, bitch, we're gonna have fucking droids in this bitch. We gonna
I
have
know, right?
clankers.
But I mean, it's cool, and it does start to feel detective-ish after that. Like when the police officers are, and the firefighters and whoever else are in the hospital, and he's on the phone with his wife, which is another moment we see his more tender side. Like he looks genuinely shooken up when he's trying to explain to Nancy Kyes, Annie Brackett, on the phone, his ex-wife, and he's like, no, like somebody was murdered here and then they lit themselves on fire. Like he's trying to explain, and she's like, the kids love me more and you love me. And she hangs up the phone
Trying to
or whatever, and
understand the divorce.
he's just like, you can tell he's really shaken up. And then he sees Ellie leaning on the wall crying, and he recognizes her. And he goes to the bar, which is cool. We get the nod to Halloween when he's like, "Would you turn that off when the boom ba boom ba boom ba boom ba bam ba dam ba da da dam ba da dam ba da dam bam ba da da dee da da silver shamrock." When we get that on the screen for like the 18th time, it's actually
And we also
we did
what I was gonna say we also get that like cliche quote from good old Tom Atkins like I hate Halloween. I said if they ever
well, the
did an
guys
anthology series, there always has to be someone that says I hate Halloween because it
well
makes
and
the movie
the guy
for
even
me.
says, he's like, "What, you don't have any Halloween spirit?" you know, when he changes the
Sips down
channel, and then
another Miller Life and he's
I know,
like,
right?
no.
Takes another sip of his whiskey. I don't know. But then, of course, he flips the channel from the Silver Shamrock commercial, the TV commercial, and then you get the immortal Halloween, and it's Michael walking down the stairs towards Laurie, and you get the commercial, which is, listen, that's surprisingly meta, honestly. Like it really kind of is. That's a surprisingly meta thing to do for an early '80s film. Like I feel like that wasn't really a thing yet, but it's almost like a not a fourth wall break, but it's one of those things where everybody in the audience was like, but that was also
Mm-hmm.
the moment where it probably killed people, and they were like, okay, if it's a movie, Michael's not in this at all. Like, people
Yeah,
were at
yeah,
that
yeah.
point were like, where's Michael? Where's Loomis? Like, how does this tie in? And then when they saw Halloween on the
Yeah,
TV, they were
that's
like,
what I was.
nope.
That's what I was saying. Yeah. So like, whenever when old Android 92 like fucking doused himself in gasoline and blew up, I told Brad, I said, people's jaws probably dropped right there. But I guarantee you, like 80% of the people in the theater are probably like, okay, yeah, but like, where's Michael?
I
Like,
know, right?
still waiting for Michael to show up because they're in that fucking like denial that this is not a Michael Myers movie. So.
Yeah. You see him douse himself in gasoline and it blows up, and then another part of the hospital blows up, and that's where Michael and Loomis were like fighting at the end of Halloween 2.
The android is the reason why the hospital blew up. Yeah.
I know, right? That would have been kind of cool too if they had taken place at the same time and they just acknowledged that, but it didn't. I don't know. It's interesting that we see it on the TV and the kind of meta way that they did that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's funny too because even when he sees her at the bar, like of course they do after they get talking, they go and they go to his store and she explains like why this is weird and the Silver Shamrock Mass are there, and but even when she said, she was like, "What were my dad's final words or whatever?" And he's holding his drink and he's like,
I love
he
this.
said, "Tell Ellie that I love her very much."
I mean, that's a
And then he
very
takes a drink,
doctor thing to
and
say, I guess. I'm
I know,
not
and
saying for every doctor.
she's like, "You're a very bad liar," or something like that. Like there, like for somebody who is like distraught that their father was just murdered, and then the dude lit himself like on fire and blew himself up, and then like you're trying to find answers. She just seems very like, I'd like to take your pants off. Like, it's just very, like,
Yeah.
what are you trying, like, what is your goal here? Like, are you trying to investigate this, or are you trying to get some? Like, chick, you
Yeah.
gotta decide here. Like, I don't know which
Like
one you
R.
want.
Kelly, like
It's
I'm
just
trying to
funny.
flirt, dog. Like that lady knew what she was wanting, and she wanted Tom Atkins, like 100%.
But in that moment, though,
Hey, dog, look, people grieve in different ways. People grieve in different ways, man. I'm just saying, people do.
oh my god.
So I don't know.
Rosalia, what's up? She said, sorry I'm late. Do not ever be sorry for being late. We're just
Don't ever
glad
be
you're
sorry
here
for late.
now. We're just glad you're
I'm
here
never
now.
sorry for being late.
I know, we were late, and we're
Yeah.
sorry. We're late. We can be sorry. We're sorry we're late.
We're sorry for all of y'all.
Real quick, I know we have some new people in here, guys. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave us a like as we sit and talk Halloween 3 on episode number 19 of Purely and Simply Evil. This will be our only live show this week. We will not have another live show. I'm going out of town this weekend. But Saturday night, you will be able to
Going
watch...
to Santa Maria.
We're going to Santa Mira. I keep saying Santa Maria. It's Santa Mira. We are going to Santa Mira on Saturday night. You will be able to listen to our full commentary of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. You got that 40th anniversary logo there in the corner. That was a fun commentary to record. And then next week, the moment you all have been waiting for, Evil Dies Tonight, my friends. We are watching Halloween Kills live on the show, continuing that. That'll be the final watch-along that we need to do to prep for Halloween Ends. And then also, we will finally get in that Revisiting Rob Zombie's H2 show as well, so that'll be a lot of fun. And we'll have a couple of other things coming next week, too. I'll probably get a couple of videos out as well. It'll be a fun time. But this will be our only live show this week. So let's talk about Santa Mira a little bit, Miguel, because when they get there, things definitely get weird. We get them kind of driving through the countryside.
Bro, it looked cultish as fuck, dog. I was like, I don't like this already.
It looked cultish and it looked very strange. Like with the, everybody's kind of like watching you drive by, and you get the cameras rotating. There's nobody really around or out. You even get the weirdness with like you get the idea that it's all very structured and very brainwashy. Like, I don't know if all the people there were. Do you think all of the people in the town were in on the Silver Shamrock thing, or were they just so brainwashed that Cochran was like just a good dude? Like, even the guy at the motel was like, oh, there ain't a finer man than Conal Cochran. Like, he's all like, he's the greatest dude ever. He's Walt Disney, basically. Like, to them, he's incredible. And like, I don't know if they were in on it. I don't know if they're just so brainwashed by the fact that they think he's amazing and he's doing something great for this small town. Or, I mean, what's your take on the people?
I'd say in my head that they're like all androids, because he said,
really,
Cochran said that he said he made these androids to be very realistic, and it showed it whenever old boy just sneezed in the elevator. Like, what kind of android sneezes? So it's like he really made them to be like as if they're real people.
But at the same time, though, he also says there's also the curfew thing. Like, where the thing rings and it's like, it's now curfew. You, like, take animals inside. Like, the woman grabs her cat and brings it inside. Like, why would he need to say the curfew if it was just for robots?
I was also going to mention that.
Which I think is funny, because Chalice literally doesn't care that there's a curfew. He's like, I need
Nobody cared. Nobody cared.
They get there, though, and Chalice, Ellie's like, we need to go check out this factory. And Chalice is like, wait, it's getting late, and I need a drink. And he just ignores the curfew and goes and buys, like, a bottle and takes it back, Yeah. And he doesn't even wait to get back. He's just got the he does the brown paper bag thing where he just unscrews it and he's drinking it out of the paper bag, And he gets to the, he finds the homeless dude, and the homeless guy's like, oh, Cochran's gonna... And he's just kind of rambling, hey, sir, can I get a drink, too? What does he say? He looks into the camera, and he's...
He said he made terroristic threats on that fucking factory.
Yeah, he said he's
right
gonna
before he said that, though.
Or something like that.
But right before he said that, he said, Cochran's got eyes and ears everywhere. Then why the fuck did you say the threat? Like, that's something y'all would keep under wraps, you know what I mean? Like, Braveheart that shit. But no, he said, Cochran's got eyes and ears everywhere. and I'm gonna blow this shit up. Like, bro, no, you know you're dead right there, dead on sight. Like, I'm surprised you didn't get snipped like that second.
Yeah.
Which
Listen,
obviously he had a really bad death. He had a really good death.
He did, and
he had a bad, but I loved it though.
He didn't realize that Trent was listening. Trent is always
Nope.
We love you. We love you, Trent.
Trent is always around. Yep.
We love you, Trent, very much. Listen, Trent.
And that scene right there is where
CIA agent that's assigned to me and Miguel for the show.
Very true.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure he goes to therapy after our show. So
he does. Every day he goes to his boss and he's like, "Can you please move me?" And the CIA guy's like, "No, you're on them."
Hey Trent, we love you.
We do.
But I was gonna say, after the events
of on a shirt.
Of the home, yeah, right. After the homeless man just made all of those threats, is when we're introduced to Dick Warlock, whatever his name is.
Well,
Dick Warlock.
There you go. Scene because again, he's like, "We have eyes and ears everywhere." Hey, Cochran, and he throws it like he does whatever. But when he dies, bro, Dick Warlock straight up, yoink, like rips his head off of his body, and it's like. Well, and it's cool because you even get the blood spurt where it's like he rips his head off and he's holding it, and his body falls, but he's still holding his head, and all you see is like as his body falls, and it's
that typical, that typical gore trope, yeah.
That was also
and right there is when that right there pretty much helped me solidify the fact that these motherfuckers were androids, because I was like, okay, no way they're aliens.
I think that was the moment you
them able to just. Old boy just ripped somebody's head off like it was a fucking wine bottle. I was like, what? So yeah, I was like, yeah.
Well, and honestly, that was kind of a sketchy scene too, because he's just kind of minding his business, like stuttering along, and then the headlights come.
He was eating his cheese in a can sandwich.
I know he was making a cheese sandwich with this cheese in a can, and then you see them walking up through the headlights, and it's just like oh, whoa. It's a cool little scene that kind of adds a little bit of like. Holy shit, like, whoa, crap, that's a lot, It adds a little bit, which I think is kind of cool.
I wish they would explore the town a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like, what made, because the homeless guy was talking about, like, Cochran came in and just created this entire town, but then didn't use any of the locals in the workforce. Like, it'd be cool to see all, like, the underground of, like, what the locals experience because of all these fucking androids like rip people's heads off, because I'm pretty sure that wasn't the first
right.
That wasn't the first incidents. I believe that there's about 4 or 5 poor motherfuckers that lost their heads both figuratively and physically. And I know for a fact that was going on throughout the entire time. I would have at least liked a little bit more of the nuances of that town.
Right. Well, and I don't know. I thought they did a pretty decent job with it, though. Like, the meat and potatoes and where we start to get like, okay, we start to kind of, the pieces start to come together a little bit, is when Marge Gutman, I think that is Marge Gutman.
You talking about?
Yeah, Marge Gutman. When Marge Gutman, she comes in, and I think it's also funny because, like, Chalice and Ellie get there, and then literally it's like, all these other people on the outside are coming in. She's like, the damn factory, and they messed up my mask order for my kids or whatever, and she's like, I have to stay in this stupid hotel again.
But who goes to the factory for a faulty mask? Not me.
Bro, they messed up your kids' Halloween masks. Like, is that really reason to drive to the factory and stay in a hotel for a night just to get to, like, is it really that big of a deal? Like, go buy them 2 more masks.
Yeah, Mama Bear instincts.
Anyways,
did not win on that end.
She didn't know that they were using Stonehenge to try to kill children either. But the meat and potatoes kind of comes when she drops the chip on the floor, and we see like the microchip on the back of it. Of the silver shamrock little plate, the little square, the circle ring, the ring. And then when she's reading in bed and she looks at it and she takes her bobby pin and starts kind of playing around with it. And when it zaps her and her mouth is all like...
Oh, girl turned to Godzilla for a hot second with the... Yeah. That's in our ears again.
You're welcome.
Just like the movie, there's a lot of odd choices happening right now, guys.
Mm-hmm. There were some odd choices made between Chalice and Ellie, I'll tell you that. But moving on, booby-dooby-dooby-doo. Essentially, when that happens and her face explodes and stuff, and the cricket crawls out of her mouth, and there's worms and bugs, and it's just like she's all eaten up.
It was just like, one bug though.
Well, the cricket,
and that's why the big
her face and
yeah.
her hair.
And that's where the big question I was asking. I was like, where the fuck did bug come from? And then he was like, just wait, Brad. Just wait. It'll explain it. But guess what? It didn't fucking explain it.
I think the bugs and stuff is supposed to just be ambiguous. Like, it's just gross. Like, there's just not... I don't think there's really a reason for it or an explanation for it. It's just gross. It melts their head, and bugs and snakes and whatever else crawl out. But, of course they say it misfired, and then they come and Cochrane comes.
You finally see Cochrane.
Yeah, we see him for the first time, and he's very like, hello.
Yeah, as soon as he opened up his mouth, I was like, I already don't like you, dog.
Yeah.
I was like, that accent gotta go.
You can tell he's sketchy, And and the dude who played him, Dan O'Harely, or Harley.
You got this.
Dan O'Harely. I don't know how you say his name. Forgive me, I'm saying it wrong, but he did a really good job with the Connell Cochrane character and making him creepy and kind of weird, and like he's got the same vibe as like a Tim Curry, like even in something like Home Alone 2, where it's just like he just kind of comes across as weird and creepy for some reason, even if it doesn't fully make sense. Like Tim Curry is really good at that as well, and this guy did that same, like even when he's being completely genuine and he seems kind of like, oh, I'm gonna give you a tour of the factory, he's still like, I'm gonna give you a tour of the factory. Like you could tell he's just got some weird evil plan going on. He looks like a villain, But Cochrane comes and Chalice is like, wait, I'm a doctor. It's like when Sartain's like, I'm a doctor, lock your doors. Like, no,
it was dead ass. No, when Atkins said I'm a doctor, I was like, bro, I totally forgot this man was a doctor. I thought he was just a fucking playboy that drank at a bar. I totally forgot this man had a career as a fucking physician. I was like,
you mean you're not a porn star?
No, yeah.
But and they take it's funny. Another big red flag is when Cochrane is like, Chalice is like, well, where are they taking her? And Cochrane's like, well, my factory, and he's like, she'll get the finest medical attention at the factory or something like that.
I'd have been like, so the factory hospital too? Okay.
Okay, that's odd. And even when they see him, even when they see him the next morning, excuse my yawn, and they're driving through the town again, nobody around, but they're driving through the town, and the stiff dudes, the suits are watching them as they drive by, and the cameras are kind of panning and watching them, and they get there, and the family comes in, where it's like the Clark Griswold, like, here's my family, we've driven across America type, like, typical 80s family who, like, you have two types of dads in the 80s. You had the Clark Griswold, we're gonna have a great family time, or whatever, and they're just all like gung-ho and like, yippee, family trip. You have that kind of dad, and then you have did you do your chores? I wouldn't like to have to beat you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have that kind of dad. Go get me a drink. Dad, I'm 12. You heard what I said.
So you're old enough to drive. If you're old enough to drive, you're old enough to drink. Like, no, that's not how that works. The math is not mathing up.
Yeah. But, did you just say not mathing up? The math is not mathing up.
I sure did. That is a college-educated man that said that word right there.
I'm kidding. But, even like when they start taking the tour, and it's cool seeing like the mask making process, which, by the way, I don't think we mentioned that the masks were actually created by Don Post. He created the witch and the skeleton and the jack-o'-lantern, the Silver Shamrock masks. And Don Post, who, again, if you're a mask maker, or if you collect masks or anything like that, like
mask
really
enthusiast.
Yeah, if you're a mask enthusiast like I am, you'll recognize the name Don Post. Don Post was the dude that crafted that original over-the-head latex mask, because that really wasn't a thing for a long time, and he was the one who crafted that and who created that. And Don Post had this to say. He said, "Every society and every time has had its masks that suited the mood of the society, from the masked ball clowns to makeup. People want to act out a feeling inside themselves. Angry, sad, happy, old. It may be a sad commentary on present-day America that horror masks are the best sellers." So that was kind of what he had to say about the masks in Halloween 3, which is pretty interesting. I mean, it's interesting that is the vessel for causing this, like the trauma, the brain trauma, and this, like the Halloween masks are the vessel for causing this mass genocide, which is essentially what he's trying to do. I think that's kind of interesting, like the whole thing with the big giveaway commercial. Like, again, it's the same idea. Like Cochran even says, when he's got Chalice awkwardly tied up at the end of the film, and again he's watching Halloween, and it's interesting, like this.
Isn't that like kind of what happened in Halloween Town? Do you guys remember? If you guys were like Disney fans, do you remember Halloween Town, Return to Halloween Town 2, like the revenge of something, blah 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 blah. That was the whole point too. It was like he was gonna curse the entire town that was wearing a mask. It was gonna turn into the creatures that they were, and that was like a whole like destroying the world kind of thing or whatever. And I thought that was pretty cool.
But even looking at, I'm thinking like more thematically, like the themes of the consumerism thing and the TV commercial being the thing that hypnotizes you and kills you, and like the differences between what like even what Loomis talked about in Halloween 2 when they're in the elementary school, and what Cochran is saying about the whole Samhain, or as Loomis says it, Samhain, and like the origins of Halloween, and like how the Americanized version is not what Halloween should be. Halloween was darker, and the original like mythology of what that was and things like that. Like that's it's you could take it as a literal sense, because it's literally Cochran trying to sacrifice people in the name of Samhain or in the name of Halloween. But you could also look at it figuratively, as in terms of like it is the Americanized thing that goes back into the consumerism and all of that. It's an Americanized version of something dark, and this like whole Celtic thing. So that's kind of an interesting, it's an interesting thing to think about. You know what I mean? And kind of how they use the masks as the vessel to do that. And another thing that's very interesting too is the whole Stonehenge thing. I don't really know why they decided to use, like, when he does his whole typical.
Is the Stonehenge in Ireland too? Because like I'm confused by that notion as well.
No, I don't believe so. And if you remember, where is Stonehenge? Stonehenge.
Should we know this knowledge? Probably. Do I care? No.
I don't know where Stonehenge is. It's in England. Yeah, it's in.
Yeah,
it's
so
in
what
England.
significance
So, like,
does that fucking have?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, it's weird, and I get they wanted to do something weird. And if you remember, I believe it's in the gas station. In the gas station on the TV, there, like, it's got like the news, like, national news on, and it's talking about a piece of Stonehenge being stolen. So it doesn't really explain.
Which,
it.
by the way, impressive as fuck.
I know, right? Well, it goes back to like what that guy said, that reviewer, where he was like, literally, your story is irrelevant when you're talking about stealing a piece of Stonehenge, shipping it across the across the world, and then,
exactly.
like,
you can't DHL that shit.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like,
I know, right?
like FedEx and UPS doesn't have any fucking procedures for a Stonehenge.
That's not an Amazon Prime order. Like, you can't. That's not how.
No.
So it was an interesting choice, and this kind of brings up another interesting thing. Is like, everybody keeps saying, what do you do? What do you do after Halloween ends? How do you continue the Halloween franchise? I think you do this. I think you do Season of the Witch. Now, whether that's a series on a streaming platform, whether that's a movie, I don't know. But I think there's a lot that you could expand on with Silver Shamrock, with the mythology, with the Stonehenge thing, with how they got it there. I think there's a lot you could do with that. And you could also argue that it wouldn't be good to explain all of that, but I don't know. I think Season of the Witch, it was almost too much. It was like too
much,
many
too
ideas.
soon.
Like when he finally explains it all, and he does the whole trope of "let me explain to you my diabolical plan before I kill you," that kind of thing. Like it's just very like wait, what? Like how?
Like this is
what?
no longer a horror movie. Like I wouldn't consider this a horror movie. It's more or less like
horror sci-fi.
Yeah, like sci-fi, if that, like hardcore 80s sci-fi. Like that's how I would picture it right there. So
yeah. Well, and I don't know. I don't know. It's a lot because he even like he types in 666 to the.
When Brad told me that, I was like, bro, that's too on the nose.
Go back. Listen, go back and watch it. If you listen, if you watch our commentary this weekend, go back and watch it when he's showing Chet when they do the demonstration when the Clark Griswold family is in there and the kids got the mask on and it's the commercial boom bop boom bop boom bop boom bop happy Halloween Halloween and the commercial's on and the kid starts like and it starts happening and there's the snakes coming out and his head is disintegrating or whatever like that
was probably one of the most gnarly scenes.
It was.
That was one of the most gnarly scenes that I witnessed in that movie. I would say.
And not only is it gnarly in terms of like watching the worms and like the pus and the like watching his head liquefy inside of the mask and rot, but you're also watching his own parents watch that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like his mom passes out, the dad gets bit by the snake that just came out of his son's head, and all that stuff. Like it's very interesting and it's very like whoa. Like okay, and Chalice is even taken back again. A moment where we
it was like nobody's safe. They like the first victim that they did out of this was like a child, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like I was thinking that the children would be somewhat saved, but I think that helps with the ending too. If you think about it,
it does, and you also have to think he's watching this child die, thinking, oh my god, my kids are wearing those masks. Like, that could be my kids if I don't stop this, which, again, is where I think a lot of, even if he doesn't say it, because he doesn't really say that, but it's one of those things that's just, I think it's just kind of a given. The fact, like...
Like, you could tell that he has stakes in the game.
Exactly. Like, it's like, okay, not only am I trying to save all of the children on the planet, but I'm also trying to save my own children, too. And anytime it's your own family or your own kids, obviously, it's gonna strike a different...
That mama bear and papa bear instinct will surely kick in.
Yeah. And we didn't even talk about Ellie getting kidnapped. That was a whole other thing when they come out of the tour and she sees her dad's car and all the suits step in front of her and whatever. But... after he goes and he gets Ellie and they do... I do like the whole... when they're sneaking around thing and he... after he sneaks in the factory and gets caught, the way he takes them out is pretty cool, where he dumps the chips on top. He dumps all the chips on them and he types in the 666 and all of the screens come on and the chips are just kind of randomly going off and killing everybody. That's kind of cool.
There was a plot hole that I mentioned to you, I think during that scene, because I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, so you have all of these fucking badges all over the factory. So if you were to just initiate, doomsday protocol, like, bro, you're in a factory filled with those things. Like, whether or not old boy Tom Atkins just happened to drop it in the middle of all you guys, but that would literally shoot out everywhere in the factory, like from the get-go. Yeah. Like, and it showed it at the end of the movie. It was like, bro, like, even if Tom Atkins didn't dump all those chips, that factory was gonna blow the fuck up. Like, it was gonna blow up nonetheless. Like, I was like, are you the sacrifice too? Like are you like? It's almost as if Cochran. No, it's almost as if Cochran kind of knew that what was gonna happen with the Stonehenge and the chips, which is why he kind of like clapped and smiled at the end.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost as if he was like, "Yes, that's exactly what I wanted."
Like, that was kind of interesting, but I hate Cochran's death. Cochran's death is like my least favorite part of the entire film. I mean, the way, like, because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't explain it. And that's where the Stonehenge thing is kind of like, okay, what? Like, the way they both light up and then and it shoots the blue beam and he just kind of, like, he just kind of disintegrates into the air and it's like, what the hell was that? Like, that
yeah, the Stonehenge didn't really... Did they even talk about, like, what power the Stonehenge had? Like, the Stonehenge was pretty much like a backdrop, if anything. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's cool to, it's a cool concept to dive into Samhain and the Celtic origins of Halloween and what that is, and the changing of the season and warding off evil spirits and ghosts and you know, demonic things. Like, I think that's cool to dive into that. But the problem is they didn't go deep enough with that, and they just threw in, okay, Stonehenge has some magical power, but it's like, does that tie into the Celtic Halloween origin? Does that, like, what?
Literally has no connections to Celtic history, I guess. I mean, those of you that are Irish or Celtic, like I'm sorry, like if that was, like, you know, blasphemy.
I know,
but, like,
if we're wrong, let us
I didn't
know,
really.
But...
Yeah, I wasn't really given any sort of information in regards of how this is connected. But then again.
But even
I'll pull the cop-out card, movie magic, so.
But even, like, at least in the film, too, like, it doesn't explain that. It doesn't really explain anything about Stonehenge. It doesn't explain, like, there's never a, like, there's never a light bulb moment of, like, okay, now I understand why they use Stonehenge. Like, it just kind of leaves that up to be a mystery. And, you know, I understand, like, even kind of, as we're getting to the end of the film, I kind of understand why they chose to make Ellie an android when she grabs it, like, when she's just, like, riding in the car and turns and looks at him and grabs him and they have their, like, struggle and their car wrecks, but, like, I also
Bro, that struggle lasted, like, an hour.
It really did. Well,
yeah.
He'd fight her off and then 2 seconds, it was almost, like, comedic. He'd fight her off and then he'd be like, and then it'd be like back again, and then he'd fight her off, and then she'd be back again. You know what I mean? It just, like, it kept happening on and off. I think it was strange. I think a lot of people were like, he had sex with a robot, and it's like, okay, I don't think so. I think they did that after they captured her, after she saw her dad's car, and that.
That answers all your suspicious questions about how she was acting throughout the entire beginning. Like, how could someone like that be?
I don't think so.
Not what's it called? Grieving the right way, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. Different. You might take it differently if you're listening or watching. Let me know in the comments below, or if you're listening on Spotify, tweet at us at We Talk the Movies. But I mean, I don't know. I kind of take it as after they captured her, they turned her into an android. That's my thought on the matter. Or you go really dark.
Their turnover time with androids very quick. Right?
Or you could go really dark and Ellie was still locked in a room and Chalice escaped with the robot and left Ellie to burn up and die in the factory.
Damn. Did you think of that?
I did. That's a dark version.
That's dark, man.
That's a pretty dark version. But let's talk about the ending as well, because when we get to the big finale, first of all, I know that Ellie's dad did this at the beginning of the film too, and it kind of comes full circle. When Bro gets back to... Bro just... It looked like they drove for hours from where Chalice was, from where the hospital was, and where Chalice lived. It looked like they were in the car for hours. Like, definitely had MapQuest printed out, and they were looking for directions.
MapQuest wasn't even a thing.
Whatever. But then suddenly Chalice is like... I need to turn it off, and you know what I mean? And he gets in there, it's like, did you just run 3 hours to get back? Like, you know what I mean? You had like 9 minutes to get from the Silver Shamrock factory, which it looked like you drove 2 hours to, all the way back to your hometown, and then suddenly it was just like, I'm here. And then he ran in the gas station, and it was like, what? Did Bro just really run all that distance back here?
Hey man, all that Miller Lite and red,
I know, right?
Fucking Marlboro Red.
Also, I think it's hysterical that he grabbed that 6-pack of Miller. It's like, if you're about to go on a journey to try to stop an evil corporation, you're gonna need a pack of Miller. Like,
you can't do it sober.
You're gonna need it. But, you know, so obviously there's a lot of nods. Tommy Lee Wallace was a big fan of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And if you're a fan of that film, haven't seen it in quite some time personally, but honestly, I don't know if I've ever seen it all the way through, but Santa Mira is also the location in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, of course filmed in Lolita, California, but there is also another nod to the end when Chalice is, he says, I need to use your phone, and he runs in there, and he's on the phone with the TV stations, and he's like, I need you to turn it off. I don't have proof, but I just need you to listen to me. And he turns off the one station, and then he gets the other station turned off, and then he's waiting, and there are 3 kids sitting there watching the commercial with the Silver Shamrock masks on. And there's still one station showing the commercial, and he's screaming, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, and then it just cuts to black. That's a direct nod to Invasion of the Body Snatchers as well. And it definitely leaves you with this, Miguel had said something earlier on in our commentary, and he was like, I kind of want Cochran to win. Like, I think that would be a cool way to end this anthology idea, which...
Until I found out that he wanted to kill children, okay?
That
was before I found out he wanted to kill kids, okay? So, give me a break.
But, like when that direct nod to that other film, and it leaves it ambiguous. It leaves it... I'm yawning.
Like, did Cochran win or not? Like, that was the question I was trying to figure out.
Because there's 2 camps here. It's like, did Cochran get what he wanted, and did that one? Now, obviously, he didn't get exactly what he wanted because 2 of the stations were off. It was just the one that was left on. So Chalice did a pretty good job, but did he get that last station, or did Cochran get what he wanted and a bunch of children died because they were watching that?
Mm-hmm.
And if you even think further, were his children watching that station? Were his children watching one of the stations that took it off the air? Like, what, you know what I mean? It leaves it ambiguous. It leaves you kind of thinking a little bit. I think that could be a really, really interesting thing to delve into in a TV series or in a potential remake. This movie has a lot of remake potential to it. At least I think. I think there's a lot of potential in
I'd say,
you could do with
look, I'd say this is definitely like a movie that you can obviously like pick out from the shelf and be like, how can we remake this during this generation? You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely a good possibility.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like from the Kingsmen, where like your SIM cards can activate through a frequency and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a fun one, man. Definitely got the sci-fi horror feel. Very unique entry in a franchise that's, already unique in terms of like what it is and what it stands for in the different entries, but definitely one that took me a little while to warm up to, but I'm really, really glad that I did, because I mean, even the cover art for this is awesome. Like, it's a really cool concept, and it's definitely worked its way into the mythology of the franchise and in the the horror pop culture like zeitgeist. I mean, it's worked its way in, and it's a really fun flick. So I'm glad that we finally took the time to do it. And again, if you want to watch it with us, our 40th anniversary commentary drops Saturday night at 8 p.m. because we won't have another live show. So if you want to watch it Saturday at 8 p.m., you can do that.
Check it out.
Definitely. So, and also the score, dude. We didn't even talk about the score. The score for this movie is absolutely incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah, the score, you started mentioning like all the alluding things of like the original 1978, like the night he came home and then the night no one came home. I thought that was so fucking cool for those 2 names to be there. I was like, bro, that's dope. That's dope as fuck.
100%. Well, and I mentioned this on our commentary as well. I don't have it like the audio just to pull up, but I mentioned the intro that you saw for this show. If you're just joining later, go back and watch it. Our Purely and Simply Evil music, it's called Searching for You by White Hex, and I chose that music because it sounded so similar to Chariots of Pumpkins, which is the music that you hear, the like when you see Ellie's dad running out and he's looking behind him for the car and the suit dudes, the androids. Like,
you call them suit dudes?
Yeah, but they are. I mean, I love the score, and I chose that because I was like, that has that 80s synth vibe to it. So that was why I chose that. So, this, honestly, dude, this one is like an 8.5 out of 10 for me for a horror flick, you know? And listen, our ratings are really subjective. I know some people hear our ratings, they're like, are you guys friggin' nuts? But, again, you have to take it with a grain of salt. I mean, I enjoy
Hey,
it.
man.
I really do.
Well, if I like a movie, I like a movie. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely fun, man. It's a fun flick. Real quick, it's got a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it is rotten. 28% audience score. Couple of different reviews. Chris Stuckman said, absolutely atrocious. I admire the fact that they did try to propel the story in a different direction, but the story they chose was insanely boring. I kind of completely disagree with you, Chris Stuckman. I apologize, but I do. Another person said, this movie is a dirty trick on all Halloween fans. Again, but these are comments that I think you don't understand it. But after reading both of those comments, I'm like, you don't understand the film, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Cody Leach, shout out to Cody Leach. He said, it's a shame that this movie's legacy was killed by having the name Halloween attached. While Myers is nowhere to be found, what you do have is one of the most unique and creative horror flicks of the 1980s. This is a twisted and campy classic for October. Cody, I could not agree with you more. Shout out to Cody Leach. Go check out his channel. Couple more. Alan Jones said, it is lightweight and undemanding, but it is occasionally frightening, and there is a fine line in parody which all goes to make Halloween 3 worthwhile. 100%. I completely agree. It's definitely, it's unique, and it's you can kind of turn your brain off from the rest of the franchise. Like, if you can get past the fact that Halloween 3 is not a Michael Myers film, it's a great film. But that's what hurt it all of those years. So many people, myself included, the first time I watched it 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I don't care about that. It's not a Michael Myers film. It's not part of the franchise. But if you can get past that, it's a really, really worthwhile flick. And it's a really, really fun flick that has a lot of remake potential. So
I'd agree. And I think this movie, again, is just a victim of the title, I would say. Just like Resident Evil, just like all these other decently made adaptations of certain books and games and whatnot. Like, stop if like, how can I say this? It try to like piggyback off the success of Halloween 1 and 2. But if you didn't do that, this movie would have, been solidified as a one-off, like, decent anthology series or whatnot. Yeah. For Halloween.
I completely agree. What's up, Steve Merlo? He says, hey guys, how's it going? Halloween 3 is one of my absolute favorites. Yeah, man, it's definitely a good one. Guys, we just did an interview with Steve Merlo. Go check that out on our channel, as well as looking at his Indiegogo campaign, because the Sawyer Massacre, the prequel to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, drops 2 weeks? 2 or 3 weeks? I think it's in the last half of the month. But definitely go check that out. Support Steve and his people, because they did an incredible job with the Sawyer Massacre. Really looking forward to seeing it. Rosalia said, I never rewatched H3, but I would watch a remake. See, I actually enjoy rewatching this one. Like, honestly, I'll probably pop this one back in around, like, actual Halloween time. But I would definitely like to see a remake. Daniel said he would like to see a remake. It's got a lot of remake
I'm glad we're all on the same page. And, it'd be dope.
And Dave McCrae actually has a really cool video on his channel talking about like what he would like to see, and kind of he said he would do it as a series where it's like you kind of follow Chalice as a little bit more of a seasoned dude, and he's it's got a little bit more, not necessarily Stranger Things-ifying it as he says, but like, I don't know, a little bit more of a serious drama type deal. Steve, that's an interesting thought. Steve Merlo said he would like to see a sequel to Halloween 3.
But my question is, wouldn't that take away from the ambiguous side of the ending?
It would, but you could argue that about Halloween too.
Yeah, true.
You could argue the same exact thing about Halloween. That's why John Carpenter didn't want to do it. My only, like, I would be down for that, but my only thing is, what do you do? Because do you set it 40 years later? Do you set it immediately following? Like, what do you do about the Chalice character? I mean, Tom Atkins is, I would say, in his 80s, probably in his 70s or 80s. Let me check that out. I don't want to. Sorry, Tom. I don't want to.
Is he dead? That's the question,
no,
too.
No, he's not dead. He's okay. He's 80. Yeah, he's 86. So I mean.
My God.
He's 86 years old. Like, he's up there. It's like, so what do you do? Like, do you do it 40 years in the future? Do you do right after? I'm open to it. I'd be interested. Steve said it wouldn't necessarily take away from that ambiguity depending on how you do it. And that's true, too. That's true. You could also, like, what you could do is you could say, you could make it like kind of like what they did with the blip, where it's like in the MCU where it happened, people talk about it, but it's just kind of a dark thing where it's like we talk about it but we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, nobody talks about it, but you can't stop talking about it. Like, it's all the
It's just that giant elephant in the room. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But like, all of these kids just died one Halloween, and it's just like, wow. And it's people dealing with that and trying to investigate that. It could be interesting, man. Could definitely be an interesting take. But yeah, guys, Halloween 3 is incredible. Definitely a really, really good watch. Try to get past. I know this isn't. This isn't a review.
Just do this. Just do this to the cover and be like, "Oh, Season of the Witch."
I know,
I'll watch it.
Part of the reason we don't necessarily do reviews, and part of the reason we came up with this Purely and Simply Evil show, is because it's like, at this point, why review it when we could just take a deep dive into it and talk about it? And this movie is a perfect example of taking a deep dive. If you've never seen Halloween 3, like, seriously, give it a shot. Like, just give it a shot. Keep an open mind. Don't go in expecting Halloween 1 and 2 or anything that you got from the rest of the Halloween franchise. Like, go.
Michael Myers shows up in the post-credit scene. I said it.
As a sci-fi horror, thriller flick. I mean, and it's a good time. So, guys, that's gonna do it for us, I think. Final thoughts, Miguel. I didn't even ask you final thoughts on Halloween 3. I'm just racing out of here.
No, that's pretty much my final thought. Michael Myers shows up in the post-credit scene. Yes, very true. He comes out of the burning hospital.
He comes out of the hospital and finds that a third of the kids that were watching that commercial is dead, and he's like, "Who beat me to the punch?"
Yeah, right. No, it's what's her name? Jamie. Jamie dies.
Yeah.
And now Michael's on like a revenge spree against the Celtics. That would be very anti-Irish. I would say.
If you do it like what he did in the novelization, the Curtis Richards, I think that's his name, who wrote the novelization where Michael's it's like sexual for Michael, and he's all like, every time Michael's stalking somebody, he says like, it's like he's basically so hard that he's in pain, kind of thing. Like, the novel gets very like, okay, and it goes.
Somebody wrote that and said that was a great line.
I know. I think it says his throbbing member. It says he's throbbing, like, as he's sitting there watching. Michael is throbbing as he's sitting there watching Lori and Annie and Linda.
I don't want to. When I think of Michael Myers, I don't want to think throbbing. Okay.
I know, right? He's
Moving
sitting there
past
under the mask. He's like, he's sitting there like that underneath the mask, like basically like having an aneurysm under there. Yeah. I think that's a perfect place to leave this.
Yeah.
Michael Myers.
Let's not go down this rabbit hole further.
I know, right? Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Episode number 19 of Purely and Simply Evil. Just a reminder, if you weren't here before, if you didn't catch it, this is our only live show this week. I know we've been doing multiple shows a week for the last, 3 or 4 weeks now, but again, we're in the middle of our very first Oktoberfest event. There is still a lot to come. This Saturday, our full commentary of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch drops at 8 p.m. Eastern. Again, 40th anniversary. Really fun commentary. We really enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed introducing Miguel to this film, and I think you enjoyed watching it. It's one that I definitely think we'll revisit again in the future. Next week, Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. Who evil dies? Who evil dies? I don't know what I'm saying. Live watch along of Halloween Kills, the last watch along leading up to Halloween Ends. That's going to be a blast and a half to watch Halloween Kills live with you guys on the show. That'll really, I guess, be our commentary of that film because we haven't done one for that yet. I love this thumbnail, by the way. That will forever be one of the coolest Halloween moments ever. It's so he's soaking wet. He's dripping in rain and the water they're spraying on the house and the flames. But it's so good. And then also revisiting Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That will be next week as well. We'll figure out an exact day and time, and we'll let you guys know. I'll be sure to tweet about it. If you do not follow us on Twitter and Instagram, please do that. We would love to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, as always. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at We Talk the Movies. The links are right underneath me, and they're in the description. If you are listening on Spotify, tweet at us at We Talk the Movies, and let us know your thoughts. Guys, leave us a comment down below. Do the same. We love you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And have a great weekend, and I guess we will talk to you next Tuesday night.
Very soon.
It's going to be a good one. And don't forget the big giveaway at 9, although it's past 9, so I guess we've all survived. We all
survived, apparently,
we weren't wearing silver shamrock masks, so we're...
I don't have a TV anyway, so...
Listen, Cochran's like, I'm going to kill you with your mask. She's like, bro, I don't have a TV. He's like...
Yeah. Just imagine all the low-income people. They're probably like, whew! Bullet dodged. Whew!
I know, right?
Thank God.
I know. Basically, it was a socioeconomic thing. He only
socioeconomic thing.
It was. If you were, it was only like middle class and up that ended up dying. It was everybody else. Their kids were fine. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and have a great rest of your week. And we will talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.